Everyone, welcome. Welcome to Wednesday. My name is Nick Reed. A couple days away from the weekend and a break in the weather. We'll have that coming up in just a couple of moments. Significantly cooler, I would say significantly cooler. Friday, we will be kicking things off with the road show. That's at Scramblers. We broadcast there on Fridays. And they open their doors at 6 a.m. As we begin the broadcast, it is a great place to come have breakfast or lunch. Lunch for breakfast, breakfast for lunch, $7.99. All-you-can-eat pancakes on Wednesdays and Thursdays. During the week, you also can get for $7.99 sandwich and salad combination. And any day of the week, you can get Mexican Villa hot sauce. To add to whatever meal it is. I know a lot of people like to do that for omelets. This Friday, of course, as always, we'll be out there broadcasting live. And we will have happy hour as well. Retro Metro, 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And they have new happy hour specials, both drinks and food, and, of course, a new menu. And, relatively new, enhanced. They like to keep it fresh. It's not a complete scrapping. It's not a brand new menu. I love the way that they do updated menu changes. It usually comes with the season. The bulk of it is the same, but there'll be a few new items rotated in. Sometimes variations. There'll be like a burger, and then it'll be a different type of burger, a little twist on what they previously had. You can, of course, check them out on Facebook, and I'm sure they're on Instagram as well. And they have a website. It's Retro Metro. But this Friday, 4 to 6, happy hour. I'd love for you to swing by and join us. There was a meltdown we'll share with you later. It's clear Democrats are already running for the White House. A number of Democrats are. Now, this isn't anything new. Gavin Newsom, of course, has been doing this for some time. Pete Buttigieg is out there. Of course, they'll say they're not running for president, but that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get out there. Get their name out there, get the talk out there to give a sense of inevitability. So when it comes to fundraising and the cycle, I know we still have midterms to come, but it's smart. Lay that groundwork. Cory Booker, clearly, Amy Klobuchar, two individuals that are going to be running for the presidency, and you can see it happening already. Amy Klobuchar calling Cory Booker out to some degree, not by name, but it was clear he received the message and just went nuclear on the Senate floor, screaming and yelling about how dare anyone call me out, talking about Klobuchar, his Democrat colleague, who, of course, ran for president ran for the nomination, Democrat nomination last time around. Didn't fare so well. We'll play some of that audio coming up. There are these moments, and I've spoken of this before, that if you are a Republican or an independent or a Trump supporter, sometimes those overlap, there are these very specific election cycles that are very enjoyable to watch, to observe. And those are election cycles in which there is no assumed Democrat nominee. So, in other words, this last time around, of course, it was a tad bit murky, but ultimately Biden was the one who was going to get the nominee. He was running for re-election. When Obama ran for his second term, I mean, they go through the rigmarole of, we have primaries, but everyone knows who's going to get the nomination. It's the incumbent. But when there is a fresh slate, when there is no heir apparent to the throne, it gets really fun because the Democrats all turn against each other and they start treating one another like they treat Republicans. The last time we saw this was the 2020 election. That was when you had Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden and Klobuchar and Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris and I mean, they were just ripping on one another. This is where Tulsi Gabbard would really just call out, and many people argue destroyed Kamala Harris's presidential ambitions before Iowa even occurred, because Tulsi Gabbard, excuse me, successfully the called out Kamala Harris's time as the Attorney General of California, and really hammered her on her record and made her look the fool that she is, and that is what many people felt was the beginning of the end of her campaign. Of course, you had Kamala Harris calling out Joe Biden as being racist, uh, segregationist. You had many of the Democrats doing that. Elizabeth Warren was in there. You may recall Bloomberg jumping in sort of at the last minute, and some of you were worried about it because, well, he seemed a little more moderate and he had all this money, and the Democrats all piled on him, how he was trying to buy elections because he had so much money. And anyhow, point being is it's like a comet that's not always there. In fact, it's rarely there, but when it's there, it's quite a moment to observe. And that is something that I would encourage you just to anticipate and look forward to, because it's already beginning. And we saw, again, some of that yesterday on the Senate floor with Cory Booker. We'll have that audio, plus much more. This whites-only community, that there was some story regarding that these families that believe in really honoring the ancestry and culture of their own people, and so there was talk about maybe buying some land in the Springfield area and starting our own community. Well, of course, how everybody has to freak out over this, and the city's in on it now, and of course, Democrats, it gives them an opportunity in Missouri to try and be relevant, to virtue signal the NAACP, which I find it hilarious that in organizations whose sole focus is the promotion of one race specifically is condemning another race because they want to freely assemble together and kind of live on their own and focus on their own. Nobody, even the news leader, I think it's the news leader, has a story. The NAACP is condemning this whites only. Do you not see the irony in this? The absurdity of an organization whose sole purpose is to focus only on one race, lifting up one race, promoting one race, criticizing another race for doing the same thing. And everybody acts like it's perfectly normal. The level of stupidity that gets exposed when it comes to some of these particular issues it's pretty remarkable. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
Once again.
Yeah, there's another one of those.
Once again.
Just hold in for you.
Yep.
Keep you on your toes.
It is the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers continue and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And taking a look at Friday, partly sunny with a high near 80.
Tsunami waves have hit Hawaii as well as the U.S. coast after a massive 8.8 quake strike off of Russia. Tsunami triggered by the underwater earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia, impacting Hawaii and the U.S. West Coast, including Washington, Oregon, California, as thousands of people have fled to higher ground for safety in Hawaii. There was a 4-foot wave amplitude in some areas, 3-foot, other 5.7, 4.9. So, ranging from 4 to almost 6-foot waves as measured at this point. The entire state of Hawaii had, been under a tsunami warning for several hours. That I believe has been downgraded to a tsunami advisory, according to Major General Stephen Logan, saying that the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center continues to monitor for more data to update its forecast and for an all clear that it may issue later on, noting the danger is not over. Officials urging people to stay aware of the conditions along the coast. Quote, tsunami advisory means the potential for strong currents or dangerous waves are expected or occurring for those in or near the water. There may be flooding of beach or harbor areas. Those who have evacuated may safely return home based on county assessment and directives. That tsunami took about 6 hours to complete the more than 3,500-mile journey across the Pacific Ocean from the magnitude 8.8 earthquake epicenter just a few miles offshore of Russia. Impacts from the tsunami spreading beyond Hawaii. Officials across 4 continents, North America, South America, Asia, and Australia, all warning the residents to be aware of possible flooding from tsunami waves as they arrive on the coast. The advisory remains, again, in effect for Hawaii, parts of Alaska, as well as the U.S. coast. Let's see. In California, 3.6 wave amplitude was reported in Crescent City, with a 3-foot wave in Arena Cove. Smaller, yet still significant, Monterey, 1.6 foot, or that in Point Reyes, 1.4 foot, Monterey. And in Washington and Oregon, tsunami waves measuring less than a foot. So something that's still observable, but not nearly as significant in any form of damage. The tsunami's initial waves reached Hawaii around 7:10 their time, p.m., but its impacts could last for hours as waves surge and retreat. The governor of Hawaii, Josh Green, had urged all people to evacuate, saying, "We do expect damage. We expect significant damage along the coastline. If you stay on the beaches, you could risk death," urging those inside evacuation zones to go up 4 stories if in a building, and if you can't go that high, then urging people to evacuate. He said the latest data indicates the wave height amplitude will be about 3 to 6 feet from peak to trough. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, anywhere from 4.5 to 5.7 feet thus far has been measured, at least as of that reporting. So clearly significant, but not nearly as significant as we have seen in the past when it comes to just the massive amounts of casualties and geographical damage that can be done by more significant tsunamis. There was a battle of sorts, I guess you could call it, between two, what I would argue, Democrats that are laying the groundwork to run for the presidency. One of those is Amy Klobuchar, and the other is Cory Booker. And Cory Booker is a drama queen. I find it very off-putting. It's just too much. When he starts up, it's the eye roll for me. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. Cory's going to put on a show. Now, there was a posting made. This apparently, what set him off was Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar, who ran for president last time around and is arguably going to be running again. And there was a posting made by Frank Thorpe noting that Senator Klobuchar coming out hard against Senator Booker for objecting to bipartisan legislation to provide resources for police departments. says, quote, they passed the Judiciary Committee unanimously, and I can't help it if someone couldn't change their schedule to be there. And so she was essentially taking a swipe at Cory Booker. She's positioning herself as working across the aisle with Republicans in order to get pro-law enforcement bipartisan legislation, and she decides, without calling him out by name, to suggest that he is not only not willing to work in a bipartisan manner, but also is not there in order to support law enforcement. And, of course, he knew exactly what it was that she was doing, and so he took to the Senate floor, and here's part of his little temper tantrum.
And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes? That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, that's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me.
Yawn. It is funny. Isn't it just so old and tired? It's so obvious. It's so lazy. It is so predictable. Everything about it just scream. It's this faux outrage, and the rationale, I'm sure, behind it is so very clear. One, he's mad because he was getting called out by another Democrat trying to already portray him as, again, not supportive of law enforcement. Now, his argument was that Donald Trump won't allow this money to go to states that need it anyway, blue states, and so that's why I'm not supportive of it. And you're complicit if you join with Republicans in order to fund law enforcement that is only actually going to go to the states that Donald Trump likes. Now, of course, this is particularly hilarious coming from the party that has been preaching defund the police for years.
That's right.
I mean, they are the party of defund the police. They were arguing defund the police. Democrat mayors defunded the police. Democrat city councils defunded the police. There were a lot of Democrat congresswomen, or congresspersons, one of which is no longer in there, but what's her name from St. Louis? Nat Crockett's top of mind, obviously not her, but she got
Cori Bush.
Yeah, Cori Bush, who got out in the private. That was her whole platform, was defund the police. And now Cory Booker says that he will not vote in order, or he wouldn't vote for this legislation to fund law enforcement because Trump was going to only make sure that it goes to Republican states. Well, isn't that what you would want? But that aside, there's two aspects of this that are so transparently fake. One, and it's a response to two accepted realities that the Democrat Party is facing as a major obstacle. One, that they are weak, and two, that they lack any sort of masculinity. And so, here Cory Booker coming out, and it's like, I'll show him strength. I'll start screaming and yelling, and I'll show him masculinity. Whoa, I'm just gonna be out there just like Spartacus, and I'm gonna be reaming my own party, the Democrat Party. Boy, you guys, we gotta really get it together. It's like, oh gee, I wonder what this is about. It's so fake. It's so reactionary. It is so obvious that here Cory Booker's like, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill that void. Okay, people say that we're not masculine. People say that the Democrat Party is weak and not willing to fight back. So I'm going to get out there, and I'm just going to go out there, and I'm going to scream that from the rooftops. Okay, all right. This is going to be such an interesting few years as we watch Democrats vying to get the Democrat nomination, trying to make themselves what it is that they think they need to be in order to get the nomination. And this is what the Democrat Party has become. There's nothing to them other than their quest for power. There's nothing to these people. It's like you've got a bunch of fifth graders, and you have tasked all of these fifth graders, like, okay, we're going to put on a talent show, and everyone is going to do a performance, all right? And then at the end of the performance, we're going to vote on who did the best performance. And now, right over there, at the back of the room is a giant box filled with costumes. And you all are going to go pick out a costume that is, that's going to be part of your performance. There's be a pirate costume and a doctor's costume and a coal miner's costume and there's just all sorts of different costumes. And so you got to figure out who you're going to be, what your performance is going to be about. Go pick out your costume and then plan your performance. And then everyone will give their little performance and we'll decide who's best. That is what the Democrat Party is today. They're picking out their costumes. They look at the audience and they're like, okay, what is it the audience wants? Okay, I've got to figure out how to be that as best as possible. And two of the overriding themes that the Democrats are challenged with right now is their lack of any sense or projection of masculinity, and it's combined to some degree, and at the same time, they're seen as weak by people within their own party. So what does Cory Booker do? Gets out there like the big man screaming and yelling about how it is. It's a Democrat Party. We've got to fight back harder. Oh, okay. A little too on the nose there, Cory. Toss it over to traffic weather in a moment. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, a 60% chance of showers through mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And taking a look at Friday, partly sunny with a high near 80.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Here is what I've mentioned this before, but I want to mention it again because it is very important. We, at times, have misunderstandings as to what makes our home more valuable to put on the market. And it is not uncommon if you think, we're going to sell our house, but these are the things we're going to have to do. Oh, we've got paneling, so we're going to have to get rid of that because that's out. Wallpaper's done, gone, whatever it might be. Clear. But before we even call a realtor, because we know that the realtor is going to tell us we need to do this, or I'm kind of embarrassed to. I don't want the realtor to think that we think the house is ready, and so you spend $12,000 on upgrades that may not give you any return whatsoever, and may not help you sell the home. People's expectations are different today, particularly if you are in let's say your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. The mindset that you have or even you had when you bought your first home is just different than the mindset of a 28, 29, 30-year-old today. Expectations are different. Desires are different. And so what one looks for in buying a home somebody through the eyes of a 30-year-old today is just different than it was 30 years ago. And the point here is that Emily Johnson knows what those expectations are. This is what she does all the time. She's neck deep in it every single day. Before you take step one in putting on a new roof or new air conditioner or new faucets or got to change out the cabinets or whatever it may be, talk with her first. And you may find also that there's some things that you don't think you need to do that you really do need to do. And this is why you need to visit with her before you do anything else. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Played audio earlier, and I'm sure it's gonna be making the rounds. It already is, and there's memes already being made of it. And this is Senator Cory Booker, and he essentially got called out by Amy Klobuchar, another Democrat. She was working with Republicans, bipartisan legislation for law enforcement funding, and he's not in support of it. His claim, ironically, given that he's the party of defund the police, is that those dollars, Trump wouldn't allow those dollars to go to blue states anyway, that they'd only go to red states, and that's authoritarian. And so any Democrat that participates in that is complicit. And he got on the floor and screamed and yelled. It was Amy Klobuchar that prompted this, as she, without calling him out by name, called him out. Well, she's going to run for president for the Democrat nomination, and so is he. And so this is what it's all about. And his response was to go to the well of the Senate, the floor of the Senate, and start screaming and yelling about how the Democrat Party's not strong enough. And, he was really showing off his Spartacus masculinity. This is clearly an attempt to fill the void. This is clearly his reaction is in response to what has clearly become a Democrat problem, and that is that the Democrat voters feel that they're weak and they're ineffective, and there's a complete lack of masculinity. And so it's so obvious. It's a little bit embarrassing. But there was a study done, and I thought this was interesting, and this folds into it here. And let's see, who did this? Catalyst. This is data from Catalyst. And they did a whole litany of study perspectives, different demographics regarding which political party do you think this and which political party do you think that. And so they had asked, which party do you feel best represents men priority? And the men overwhelmingly said, well, clearly Republicans do. And when they were asked to describe what those priorities were, it became readily clear, according to the report, that these young men view masculinity through a prism of their faith, financial independence, and a commitment to upholding family values, protecting, leading, and supporting a family, none of which they say represented the current Democrat Party. Well, because it doesn't. I mean, look at how the Democrat Party treats people of faith. It's with mockery. It's through a lens of being judgmental. Of course, a whole nother category of scorn if you happen to be of the Jewish faith. They're anti-Semitic. They run around trying to scare Americans, Christian nationalism, and it's just constantly pounding away at people of faith. The only time they embrace faith is election season, when they go to a church and preach from the pulpit, when they need your vote. Financial independence, they call that a cruel perspective. Everything is about getting people on government assistance, making people depend on government. And that's a bragging point for them. They may claim that that's not their goal. But if you observe, you listen to them, their belief is the more people that we, quote, reach, the better success. That should not be the level of success. The level of success should be the least amount of people that need assistance or who feel they need assistance, because a lot of the people that get assistance, they don't actually really need it, but they're convinced that they do. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example, and you see it around here all the time. Not just here. Oh, throughout the summer, guess what? All kids just go to a local government-run school and you get free breakfast and lunch. And you could be 18 years old. And the more people that they hook into that, get addicted to that, the more of a success they feel that it is. Oh, we fed this many people over this. That's their mindset. Is success equals getting people to either believe or to be dependent on government. So when you have this research showing that men view masculinity as, among other things, financial independence, that is completely counter to the Democrat Party. Commitment to upholding family values. I don't know any even so-called mainstream Democrat any longer that argues that, yes, the best thing in terms of stability, and studies have shown this, by the way, in terms of growing up and becoming a successful adult in life, is having an intact traditional family, a mother and a father. I don't know any Democrat who claims that they believe that. Protecting, leading, and supporting a family, the idea that a man's job, a father's job, a husband's job is to be the ultimate protector and provider of the family. I mean, that is something that the left not only doesn't support, but they reject that as being something that is anti-woman. See, this is, and we talked about this, why it is that Democrats not only aren't connecting with men, but aren't going to be able to, because what it is that men view as being masculine are things that are the antithesis of the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, the Democrats are running around and they're like, well, we just need to cuss more. We need to have videos of us in the gym working out. That's what, yeah, we'll show them we're men. That's not what average men consider to be manly. And it's why the Democrats have a really impossible position to deal with here, because as much as they want to try to fake being a guy, the reasons that this, and I think most of you who are men and even women agree, yeah, these are characteristics of masculinity. And what it is that Catalyst found while speaking with young men, what do you consider to be masculine and so forth, they are moral beliefs and approaches that are the antithesis of what Democrats stand for. Democrats do not like men. They don't like true men. They don't like masculinity. They hate it. They rail against it. This is why some time ago they attached the term toxic to it. You know, toxic masculinity, this concept developed by the left, isn't some unique trait amongst just a narrow segment of the male population that they're referencing. They're talking about masculinity. They're talking about the belief of having a faith-based family. They are talking about the belief that you should really strive towards financial independence. They are talking about the idea that a man thinks that he should be the protector and the provider of his family, and you know, all of that stuff. They hate that. They are attempting constantly to dismantle that. So as long as culturally, as a political party, you are trying to undo and you demonize everything about a particular characteristic, a particular cultural approach, a particular demographic, you can't then try to pretend to be like them in order to win them over. It does not work that way. Here's some quotes from the young men that were part of this research. And again, this was well beyond just the issue of masculinity in the political parties, but this is the one area that I think is real relevant right now. Oh, and incidentally, when they asked, who do you believe, like, who do you see as a masculine leader within the Democrat Party? Other than Barack Obama, which, by the way, I don't consider to be really masculine, they couldn't think of anyone. No one. Not a single individual. One young man said, quote, "I think being a masculine leader is like outlawed in the Democrat Party right now." It is. Another young man, this young black man, quote, "The Republican Party generally tends to put itself towards supporting the nuclear family. And I mean, like I said, I'm a father, I'm a husband. You really can't get better at leadership and integrity than having to raise a family. And the Republican Party does do that very well." And now, people may disagree as to how, quote, well the Republican Party does it, but they're not fully against it like the Democrat Party. A young Latino man said, quote, "Republicans prioritize capitalism, financial independence, being prolific with your careers. Democrats bring up handouts. They're going to bring up welfare." Another young white man said, "Republican values primarily revolve around, wanting stable jobs for the community a lot of the time. And a lot of times it does have to do with God and religion that ties into family and tradition and culture." The Democrat Party is clueless as to what they've created. It's this disconnect from reality, a reality that is weird because it's not reality, but it's a reality that they created. And on one hand, they know that they hate masculinity. In their minds, masculinity is bad. But then on the other hand, they tell themselves they can't figure out why it is that the people that they hate and they rail on and they demonize don't support them. And it's this refusal to accept that it's because of them. You are the reason. It isn't your messaging, it's your belief system that, of course, is carried through your messaging, but it's who you are. And no amount of what we saw with Cory Booker yesterday, coming out on the Senate floor and screaming and yelling and roar, is going to change that. That is not what men consider to be masculine, or women for that matter. It may be what Democrats will claim. Oh, see, look, that's masculinity. No. Anybody can scream. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. We'll get to a couple of your Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line messages here in a moment. First, somebody laid out a really, Sarah was reading it to me, a very strong, articulate argument against some of what I was saying. What was that?
Yep, Harold Webb on YouTube. He just wanted to really let you know that this is a cult radio.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Never thought of it that
I
way.
responded back, LOL.
Oh,
He really showed us, didn't he?
It's real difficult to dismantle such an articulate, a well-founded, documented argument as that.
That's right. What are we going to do?
I don't know. Name calling, geez, that's a pretty difficult thing to counter. All right, regarding masculinity and the Democrat Party, nothing says manliness more than yelling at a woman. That's so true. That's what all that screaming was about from Senator Cory Booker. He's yelling. Now, he didn't call Klobuchar out by name, but it's obviously it was about Klobuchar because she called him out, not by name. And this is all about these two both wanting the nomination for the Democrat presidential nomination that is, yes, still years away, but and listen, I don't blame them for trying to lay the groundwork. It's just a foolish way to do it, and it demonstrates the flailing nature of how lost they are. But yeah, to try to really portray himself as a man by yelling at a woman, that's a good point. Another noting Michelle Obama is probably the closest thing to masculinity the Democrats have. Another one said, hey, the Dems have Big Mike. Yeah, that's pretty. Listen, having a number of you text in references to Michelle Obama in the context of the most masculine member of the Democrat Party just tells you how bad things are in the Democrat Party and how arguably masculine Michelle Obama is. I always thought it was weird that physically speaking, the most prevalent compliment that fans of Michelle Obama would give were about her arms.
That's true. She had great arms.
And like that's what I mean, a lot of times, especially the whole Sydney Sweeney thing, and this discussion about beauty, and like, oh, she's got beautiful eyes, or her hair, man, her figure is right, man, she's got legs that go for her. Well, her arms are nice. Oh, okay, is that real? You would think, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a woman. But if that was the overriding compliment, it's like they're searching for something. Well, your arms are nice. Like, thank you. Thank you very much. Jim Webb texted in wanting to make sure we all knew that he is not related to Harold Webb, who called us Colt Radio. Hey, can I tell you, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. One of the reasons I have such a difficult time taking Cory Booker seriously, aside from his beliefs and just his own behavior, is every time he is talking, particularly when he is displaying outrage, all I can think of is the actor Keegan-Michael Key.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is all I can think
does look
of.
like him.
And he and Jordan Peele had, I don't think they have it any longer, but they had this sketch comedy. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Key and Peele. And a lot of the characters that Keegan-Michael Key did, he would explosive yelling. And I mean, not always, but when you do a show and every show has like 4 or 5 different sketches in it, obviously you're going to have some characters that are out of control and screaming and yelling. But it was done to the point of, for humor, to look ignorant and outrageous and ridiculous. And the fact that, to me, Keegan-Michael Key and Cory, when Cory Booker is doing that sort of performance specifically, all I can see is Keegan-Michael Key, which when he would do it, it would be for humor purposes. And so it's very difficult to take Cory Booker, for me, seriously, on top of everything else, because of those similarities. Which, of course, means I'm racist because they're both black, and so clearly that's why I think they look like one another. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. In reference to that poster on YouTube saying that we're just cult radio, a message coming in saying, woohoo, I'm in a cult, but seriously, though, what is the name of the cult in case someone asks?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
Well, so
we haven't got this far.
Well, I don't even know who the leader is. I guess, is it me?
It's you.
Well.
And I've just drank the Kool-Aid.
Let me tell you, I'm doing it wrong, because this is there's 3 things I know about cult leaders, just based off of watching documentaries about cults and studying, just out of interest, behavior of cults. Cult leaders, 1, never have to do housework. They never have to do anything around the compound.
True. Cult members do it for them.
The cult members do it for them. 2, the cult members always turn over whatever money that they have to the cult leader. That certainly isn't happening. I'm not requiring or asking, and no one's offering to give me their money. And 3rd, the cult leader always gets to have sex with the wives of the other cult members. If they want to, they get to pick and choose whichever ones they want. And the husbands are like, All right, sure, whatever. And even if they don't like it, they keep their mouths shut because it's a cult leader. I don't have any of those things going on. So if I'm a cult leader, I am missing out on all the perks.
You're doing it wrong, I guess.
I am doing it wrong. Oh, man. I'm definitely not taking advantage of my position as the leader of cult radio. Coming up, the New York Times admitting that it used a misleading photo of a starving Gaza child. This is Groundhog Day. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. And while the media is completely dishonest in the vast majority of their reporting, particularly when it comes to what is going on between the terrorist organization Hamas and the Jewish people of Israel and the people of Gaza, every once in a while there is like a specific instance that is so clearly a lie that they have to come out and admit it. That next. You want to know what a boss Donald Trump is? Donald Trump's over in Scotland, UK, and he's there, among other reasons, to the grand opening of his newest golf course. And of course, he managed to, at the same time, in between holes, I guess, come up with this historic trade deal with the European Union. And he, while there, also was visiting with the Prime Minister of the UK to talk about a number of different issues. Now, when you go to someone else's country, you get hosted, obviously, because you are in their home. When somebody that is a world leader comes from whatever country and they come to the United States, then they come to the White House. There's oftentimes a ceremony. The president welcomes them. They drive up and they get out of the limousine, and so obviously it's the host country, so they host because it's their country. Donald Trump hosted in the UK the Prime Minister of England in his facility, at the new golf course. Donald Trump is such a boss that he hosted the leader of another country in that leader's country. He hosted it. You know what a power move that is? I mean, that is crazy. It's like Donald Trump did the hosting of the host in the host country. That is just such an amazing thing. I heard Glenn Beck talking the other day about a visit to the White House, and Trump made a remark about the gold, all of the gold and the opulence, and Beck was talking about how he didn't really tend to like it so much because that's not who we are. This is supposed to be the people's, White House, and we aren't all about that. And what he said Trump explained to him is, but that's not what it's for. He said, and this is Trump. Trump said, leaders of other countries and the rest of the world, that stuff does to them demonstrate power and authority, and they are the ones that we have meetings with here. They are the ones who we sit down and attempt to have negotiations with. That's who this is for. That is the target audience to demonstrate strength and authority, and that's part of what makes Trump so successful. And books have, I'm sure, been written about it. We've talked about it before. I mean, this isn't anything that's a secret, but seemingly people still don't seem to understand how it is that Trump manages to be so successful and to win over these negotiations. Is he understands the opposition. He understands the person sitting across the table. He makes a point to understand them. And the fact that he crafts areas of the White House in a way that gives the United States the upper hand over other countries is typical Donald Trump. But I highly suspect there has never been in the history of mankind, any guest to a country that ended up being the one hosting the host of the country on their property in that host country, other than Donald Trump. Whether soon, moments away, in fact. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers through mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And taking a look at Friday, partly sunny skies with a high near 80.
Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, day 2. What is today? Wednesday. Today will be day 3 of the project that I have, with great anticipation, been waiting for. I, like a lot of folks, had in my home a very small patio area. Gosh, 4 by 12 feet, maybe 4 by 10 feet. It was very small. Meant primarily just, I'll have a couple chairs sit. And it was something that clearly was done as a DIY by one of the previous owners. Our house was built in the late 70s. There were a number of previous owners. And so it sort of, quote, did the job, if you will. But I wanted more than that. And part of that was the fact that we have a backyard. And look around and, just realize how much of that space goes unused. And we paid for it. It's not cheap, having that parcel of land upon which one's house sits. It's expensive. Yet it so often goes completely wasted, and we decided as a family we didn't want to do that any longer. So that's where we reached out and got set up with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, and Daniel Hunter came over and talked about what is it you want to use it for. And then I told him, and he said, okay, here's some ideas. And I was like, I love it. And so then the work has begun. I cannot recommend it enough. And if you're going to have it done, just Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. You are not going to go with anyone better. They just do such amazing work, the level of professionalism, and that oftentimes gets said a lot. Like, oh, we've got employees that are professional and they're just words, but I'm just telling you, as someone who has been around people that do, this sort of physical labor, and you may have as well, it is just something different about the crew with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. You can visit them at hunterhardscapes.com, see some of the work that they've done for some of you here in the area locally, the before and after pics, and then you can also read reviews from others as well. And I'm documenting by way of video and pictures. That way, the project, you can, get a sense of what it is that they may be able to do for you as well. HunterHardscapes.com, also KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. New York Times admitting it used misleading photo of starving Gaza child. Well, of course they did, as did virtually every other network in existence. So if you didn't see the video circulating, it was a video of a woman who clearly wasn't starving. Although you, in most pictures, did not see her, you just saw the close-up of this starving child in front of the camera. And this is, we were told, this is what children look like in Gaza. And it's because the Jews are starving them to death. So that means that we should give the terrorists their own state, which we'll get to that in a moment. Now the Prime Minister of UK is wanting to reward the terrorists by giving them their own state, part of the two-state solution. Within hours of the posting of the fake, the picture's fake, but the context the picture's real, but the context is fake. After the New York Times spread the disinformation, almost every major outlet used the image telling the same story. Sky News, CNN, Guardian, Daily Mail, New York Times, Times of the UK all ran with it, reinforcing the message Gaza is gripped with mass starvation. Mass starvation. Yet it was a picture of one person. Does that sound like mass starvation? Now, what we've learned is that this was not some child that was part of mass starvation at the hands of the evil Jews, but instead a young child that tragically has been suffering from multiple serious medical conditions. Now, thinking people immediately see, if they see a photo like this, begin asking questions. Number one, where are all the other starving kids? Some of you may recall a time, particularly in the 80s, there was a big push to feed starving kids in Africa. Sally Struthers became real synonymous. You could adopt a child in Africa. And these, they weren't full infomercials, though there may have been some, but it seemed like they were usually a bit longer in nature, the commercials, asking you, for 88 cents a day, you can feed a child, that sort of thing. And do you know what the imagery was? It was villages filled with kids that all looked exactly the same, starving kids. As far as the eye could see. Nowhere in sight did you see a single child or parent, or adult for that matter, that looked as if they had had a meal in days. It was mass starvation. So a thinking person, when you have a photo put out by the New York Times and then spread by numerous other outlets of just one child claiming this is proof of mass starvation, recognizes that is not proof of mass starvation. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but showing one individual is not proof of mass anything, by definition. So then one would ask, of course, why, if your goal was to expose the truth of mass starvation, why would you not show picture after picture after picture after picture in order to prove your point? Isn't that what you would do? Isn't that how human beings operate? If there is some sort of mass devastation that occurs, let's say that you are taking photos of mass devastation, there's flood, and maybe some of you have done it when there's flooding in the area, or whatever it may be. Do you zoom in and take a picture of one little plant that has been drowned out? No, you take you get as full of a picture as you possibly can in order to demonstrate your point, in order to make sure the people who see your pictures or your video get a full understanding of exactly what's going on. So if there really is truly mass starvation of children, which, by the way, why would it be just children? That's sort of weird in and of itself. And you want the world to know about the genocide and the human atrocities, you would have picture after picture after picture. You would have hours of footage going through entire neighborhoods, going through the living complexes, filming miles long lines of starving children that look emaciated, that have swollen little bellies because they're so starved that they're gnawing on themselves, that they can barely stand. They look like they weigh 32 pounds apiece. You would just have nothing but that being pumped out so that the world could see. But no, that's not what happens. It's one zoomed in photo of one kid. See, this is the pathetic and, I would argue, immorally dishonest state of journalism today, culturally worldwide, overall. You're telling me not a single person at the New York Times or CNN or Sky News or The Guardian or Daily Mail or New York, any of these places said, hey, well, wait a minute here. This actually doesn't add up. Not a single one. You would think even if it did sort of add up, you'd still say, well, we should probably verify this before we broadcast to the world, given the implications that by promoting this, we are telling the world that the Jewish people are doing these horrific anti-humanitarian things. It's not like you're reporting on a lost puppy. You are assigning blame to a country for this. You are talking about promoting something that arguably and conceivably, realistically, could give the enemy justification to launch more attacks, killing more innocent people. Doesn't bother him at all, though, does it? So you've got, a couple of options. Either it's just that culturally this inability to use your brain and to think, to recognize the obvious right in front of you. I mean, these people, how does anyone trust any of these people to report the news? Because most generously, they are so obtuse that even the most obvious situation of potential fraud, they get suckered into it. Or they're willing participants. I suspect what occurs with a lot of them is they don't necessarily out of the gate know for sure exactly what's going on, though some may. I think a lot of them, they know that this is not in any way, shape, or form verification of mass starvation. But they just pretend as if, because they want to get it out there. They want the world to understand how evil the Israelis are. And so even if it isn't specifically the truth, it still conveys ultimately what's going on. Which, of course, that isn't true either, but that's what they tell themselves. These are horrible people. And then, on top of it, UK Prime Minister Starmer announces ready to join France in recognizing a Palestinian state. Why? What's it based off of? Crap like this. The lie. That it's the Jews who are causing this the problem that is non-existent in many instances. Said that the UK could recognize Palestine as a state as soon as the UN General Assembly in September unless Israel takes, quote, substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza. Well, they're not responsible for that. We're right back to the two-state solution, right back to rewarding terrorism. If you're a terrorist organization and you want your own state recognized by the United Nations, well, just start carrying out terrorist attacks. Start killing off your own people. Start embarrassingly, transparently pumping out propaganda about the country, your enemy, knowing full well that the media will pick it up and run with it. And at some point, you'll have world leaders that say, you know what, we should just give you your own country. Rewarding terrorism is not a successful way to eliminate terrorism. And people like anyone who calls for a two-state solution, anyone who calls for giving the terrorist organization their own country, is either straight up allied to the terrorist organization or so profoundly ignorant about the implications, they should not be in a leadership position because they are a danger to the world in being so. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Where did the photo of that kid come from? It's probably from Hamas. Well, I'm sure. Because they know that worldwide media outlets will run with it. I mean, how many times does Hamas have to get caught lying about what is going on before these outlets quit promoting their propaganda? This is proof that they're on their side because they continue to do it. I mean, at some point you wake up and you go, okay, well, I get it. I see what's going on here. And now, and part of the reason that they do it, and this is very unfortunate because of the massive strides forward that Israel has taken against terrorism, specifically against Hamas, and now we're right back to where we were prior to Trump getting elected, with the media deliberately spreading propaganda for Hamas against Israel, and right back to some of these world leaders saying, well, we should give Hamas their own country, two-state solution. I believe it was back in the 90s when it was decided by the world community that we should allow the people of Gaza to have their own government, to elect their own people, because then they could be held accountable. I remember that argument being made. There were people that said, may not be a good idea to allow terrorists to actually run a local government. And the argument was, but see, if they're in positions of power, then we can hold them accountable. That was the argument. That this would somehow make terrorists less terroristy. That it would moderate them. Because we could say, now listen here, if you misbehave, then we will cut off aid. We'll cut off financial aid. We'll cut off humanitarian aid. And so that was the reason we needed to allow the Hamas because we knew that's what would happen. They would get elected in order to run the local government there so that we could hold them accountable. And the very ideology, the very people who made that claim are the very people who say that we should not cut off funding to them no matter what they do, even October 7th. And the same people who claimed that we should give Hamas their own little government because that's going to moderate them and hold them accountable are now saying, in response to things like October 7th, well, now how about we give them their own country as well? This is what happens when you reward terrorism. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers through mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And on Friday, partly sunny with a high near 80. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, if it's been a while since your last roof inspection, now is the time to call the Pyramid Roofing team. They offer residential, commercial, and metal roofing services, and they don't pressure you or upsell you. I hate that. I'm sure that you hate that, and they don't do that. They'll let you know if you need just a simple roof repair or if it is time to pull the trigger and get a new roof. And then they'll be with you every step of the way. They offer free roof inspections. They work with you through the insurance process without making you sign anything. And they also offer discounts on new roof installs for our military and our first responders. If it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing team out to your home, schedule that free roof inspection with Josh today. Now you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
UCLA paying a big settlement over a Jew exclusion zone, which is just crazy that could even happen in the United States of America, and even further crazy how profoundly anti-Semitic the left has become in this country. University of California, Los Angeles has agreed to pay $6 million to settle a lawsuit brought by Jewish students and faculty members of the school's handling of anti-Jewish protests, including allowing protesters to ban Jews from part of the campus. This is something they actually did. They allowed the neo-Nazi lefts to decide where Jews could and could not go on campus. This is going on in this country. And the left continues to say, well, it's free speech, see. Donald Trump's just trying to stamp down on free speech. I mean, for the left in this country, the concentration camps of Germany were just free speech. The gas chambers were just free speech. The lawsuit was brought last year by Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty, accusing UCLA of aiding and abetting an anti-Semitic culture, including segregating Jewish students and preventing them from accessing the heart of the campus. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Mary Osaka, the UCLA Vice Chancellor for Strategic Communications, said the university has taken concrete action to enhance campus safety by creating a new Office of Campus and Community Safety, instituting new policies to manage protest on campus, and taking decisive action for conduct that violates our long-standing policies. Anti-Semitism has no place at UCLA. Oh, whatever. Clearly it does. We remain steadfast in our commitment to eradicating it from our community. You know, one of the ways that we really worked hard at doing that is allowing anti-Semites to decide where Jews could and couldn't go on campus. We have reflected candidly on our progress and are working to expunge anti-Semitism from our community in its entirety. Lies. Lies. Part of the reason these universities... So you look at it and you're like, oh, well, they made the payment here, so they're admitting it. What they're actually doing is just paying the current administration to stop snooping around. Donald Trump has been very adamant about taking meaningful steps, to try and at the very least change the culture of anti-Semitism on these university campuses. And I think he recognizes that you can't just simply expect or ask anti-Semitic people on the left to quit being that way. And so you have to financially punish them in a manner that forces them at least to take some steps. I mean, he's got to do something. And that's the tool that he has. And the tool of supporting organizations that take steps like this particular organization did, the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty, and filing a lawsuit against UCLA. So these settlements, on one hand, are a success because it is one, you think, well, hopefully they'll not want to have to pay out all of this money to people that they dislike, and so they'll change their behavior. They won't be so overt about it, at least. But on the other hand, you have to recognize they do this just so you go away. That way they can go right back to the same anti-Semitic culture, but not have an organization like that peeking around or continuing to bring to light the anti-Semitism. Paying for darkness. And $6 million, psh. I mean, if we've learned anything about these universities and their endowment, $6 million drop in the bucket. The largest teachers union in the U.S. erasing Jews from the Holocaust. The nation's largest teachers union plans to promote a version of Holocaust remembrance that omits the mention of Jews, according to its own 2025 handbook, which references victims of the Holocaust from different faiths, and teaches that Israel was founded through forced violent displacement and dispossession. The National Education Association, which represents nearly 3 million public school teachers and education workers, outlined the priority in its 2025 handbook. The NAA publishes the document each year as a guide on the group's priorities of strategic goals for the association's national and state leaders, staff, and members, including the NAA's bylaws, and it's updated with any new resolutions and policy position the union has endorsed. The NEA handbook indicates that union leadership does not back the extremist anti-Israel and anti-Jewish position of many of its members. The handbook saying the union will, quote, promote the celebration of International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which kind of weird to see it as a celebration, but nonetheless, by, quote, recognizing more than 12 million victims of the Holocaust from different faiths ethnicities, races, political beliefs, genders, and gender identification, abilities, disabilities, and other targeted characteristics. The description does not mention the attempted extermination of the Jewish people by the Nazis. Now, of course, there were numerous other people that were put into these camps as well. But part of the plan was just to get rid of the Jews. And this is, to me, no different than just denying the Holocaust altogether. By trying to rewrite the history, the motivations, the realities of what the Holocaust was about. And this is another one of those weird, well, it's not weird, but a deliberate reality separated from what is oftentimes taught and believed in this country. And I suspect that if you ask, particularly on university campuses, what do you think it's right-wingers or left-wingers that would be Holocaust deniers? You'd probably have most people say, oh, clearly right-wingers. But here when you have the largest teachers union stripping out the Jewish references of the Holocaust, it would be like talking about slavery in the United States, but never mentioning black people, never mentioning race. And these are the people that accuse Republicans, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, of wanting to whitewash history. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pete Buttigieg, who is proven he understands masculinity by growing a beard, as he is out there laying the groundwork for his presidential run, acknowledges fairness issue with trans athletes in women's sports. I want to read to you what it is that he has said regarding this issue, and this is going to be, I suspect, for the most part, the Democrat approach. They're trying to figure out how to navigate this, because they've realized that they're on the losing end of this issue. But the problem they have is, in order to get the nomination, you have to, in their minds, and there's definitely an argument that this is accurate, you have to be to the extreme left in order to win the nomination. So what do? Do you win the nomination by being extremely to the left only to make it more difficult or impossible to win the general election? Or Do you moderate yourself for the purposes of the general election and risk losing the nomination because you weren't extreme enough? They've really painted themselves into quite a corner here. During an interview with NPR, which is, of course, not biased whatsoever, Buttigieg acknowledged fairness issues in the debate. Quote, around sports, I think most reasonable people would recognize that there are serious fairness issues if you treat this as not mattering when a trans athlete wants to compete in women's sports. But so, anyways, answering the question about this whole thing, well, what do you think about this? Women, boys, and girls sports and so forth. What are your thoughts? And so this is how he starts out. Then he goes on to say, that's why I think these decisions should be in the hands of sports leagues and school boards and not politicians. Well, school boards are elected individuals, so, I mean, that would be a politician. I mean, perhaps not the traditional Republican, Democrat politician, but they are elected. They go on, they campaign, they raise money. Different organizations, including political action committees, donate money to them. So this is just these people. He went on to say, chess is different from weightlifting. And weightlifting is different from volleyball, and middle school is different from the Olympics. So that's exactly why I think we shouldn't be grandstanding on this as politicians. We should be empowering communities and organizations and schools to make the right decision. So here's what I believe that the Democrat approach is going to be, and that is not taking a stance on the issue. They have been taking a stance on this issue as of late, and that is that boys should ultimately get the final say, and if they want to claim to be a girl, they should be able to compete against girls. They should be able to use locker rooms with girls. They are the ones ultimately that get to make that decision. That has been the unwavering position of the Democrat Party, and it is clear to them that that has harmed them significantly. So they believe we can't take that position, but they also believe they can't take the pro-girl position or the fairness position and say boys should not be allowed to compete against girls. So what position do you take? Well, you just don't take one at all, while making it look like you've taken a position. Well, clearly, this is an issue of fairness. I mean, oh, yes, all reasonable people understand that. But, there's a difference between bowling and badminton and football. And you know what? I just think because of all the complexities here, that's the reason that we shouldn't be taking a position on this. And instead, just leave it up to the local school boards and the local communities. What if they took that position when it came to, I mean, if that's an okay position to take on an issue that is about rights? We're talking about equal rights. We're talking about the rights of females. We're talking about the rights of young girls. And Pete Buttigieg's position is, hey, that should be just a local issue. That's not something we should be deciding because, what's good over here may not be good over there. What if that position were taken when it comes to like other LGBTQ issues or race? If there were people out there that wanted to say, let's say, we don't think that black people should be able to participate in sports any longer. That's a civil rights issue, right? Would it be then fair to argue, would Pete Buttigieg argue, you know what, listen, that's just, we shouldn't be grandstanding on those issues. That's for local school boards to decide. There are lots of issues that should be decided by local school boards and local communities. I think, however, others, evidently not universally, but to many people, are a matter of human rights or a matter of women's rights, girls' rights. And so those are those are certain areas that school boards should not be able to dismiss any more than the rights of black people or disabled people. So just because chess is different from weightlifting doesn't mean that girls should have their rights thrown out the window if a local community wants them to be thrown out the window. This position that Buttigieg is taking, it gives us insight into the approach that Democrats are going to try and take. And it is going to, one, in their minds, allow them to not take a position. So no one can accuse them of supporting forcing girls to compete against boys, but all at the same time can't accuse them of transphobia because they haven't taken a stance on it. They just believe, I guess, that local communities should be allowed to be transphobic. That's what if I were a left-winger, that's what I would ask people. So if a local community, I mean, this is just feed it into the left here, and this is what they're going to have to deal with in the primary. So you're saying if a local school board and a local community wants to be transphobic, they should be allowed to? Now, I don't know that is a question that they're going to face too much when it comes to the actual primary caucus election season, but that is potentially something they're going to have to face. They also will employ this tactic of not taking a position as a way to try and just dismiss it and move on. And reporters will largely allow them to do that because they don't want them to look that bad, particularly in recognition of the fact that they potentially could be up against a Republican in the general election, and they don't want to damage them too badly. And so when they're asked about boys and girls sports, and then they come back with this, well, there's a lot of complexities, and hey, I don't think it's my place. That's what local communities and school boards are for. And then the reporter shake their head, oh, okay, and then move on to the next question. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Regarding Pete Buttigieg's approach here that I believe is going to be the Democrat approach facing election season regarding forcing girls to compete against boys, and that is going to be, oh, well, that should just be a local decision. That shouldn't have anything to do with me, so they can avoid answering it altogether. A text coming in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line, one of you said, if your school says no to boys and another school says allows boys and girls sports, your school is going to lose. And that's an excellent point, because it's not simply about the unfairness of forcing girls in individual sports like track, just locally competing against one another. But what about when they compete against other schools? So does Pete Buttigieg then think that that's fair? And what that does is it works against girls, because when you are a school and you're wanting all sorts of attention, I mean, it benefits local schools to have great sports programs and great titles and to be able to say state champions this year and that year. And if you are up against schools that allow boys to compete, and because of that they have an advantage, it puts a pressure on those schools to also allow boys to compete so that they can compete on a level playing field. It's an excellent point because it's based in reality. There's been a story circulating a bit about this idiot Jasmine Crockett. These Democrats are just some of these Democrats. So the Atlantic, which is far left, they were going to do a puff piece on her, and she was all about it and everything. And so the Atlantic's reporter reached out to dozens of Democrat congressmen, including members of the House Oversight Judiciary Committee, to get insight on Crockett for a lengthy profile. Well, apparently she found out some of them were saying things that weren't in line with what she wanted, and so she threatened to pull their right to do an expose on her or a profile of her because, censorship, believing that she has the right to tell. Of course, this is all hilarious coming from a Democrat who claims that Donald Trump is all about censorship and squashing free speech and freedom of the press. And here she is telling the Atlantic, I decided that you don't have the right to write a story about me anymore because you spoke to some of my colleagues that said things I don't like. This is such instructive insight into the minds of so many of these relatively new elected individuals, particularly Democrats. One of the things that the Atlantic learned is that she argued that she deserved to be the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee. Do you know why? What her argument was?
What?
Because she had more social media followers than the other candidates did.
Oh, please.
More likes, more social media followers. We've got news coming up 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. Friday, we'll be kicking the morning off at Scramblers, where you can now get Mexican Villa hot sauce. That's right. For those of you who, maybe sneak in your own hot sauce because you love to have that as part of your breakfast, your eggs, your omelets. Now, one of the 417 favorite hot sauces available to you right there. So you don't have to bring your own Mexican Villa hot sauce. And also, during the week, they have $7.99 sandwich and sandwich and salad combos. Pinnaker Honda, they continue with their free fuel for summer theme gas, free gas with every new car purchase for 3 months. Now, that's from the time of the purchase, obviously, as we're more than, I guess, halfway through summer at this point. But they still have this going where if you purchase a new vehicle, then you get 3 months of free gas. They are also looking to purchase your vehicle, especially quality used Hondas, top dollar, plus $1,000 towards your trade with the purchase of a new Honda. So it's a great time to trade up. Plus, they do have a huge selection of quality pre-owned vehicles available, if that's what you're looking for. Over 120 to choose from, with the largest selection of certified pre-owned Hondas in the area. Over 100 certified used Hondas on the line. And 0.99% financing available on select certified pre-owned vehicles. That's an incredible interest rate for quality pre-owned vehicles. And that's some of what you get at Pinnaker Honda, just south of Walnut Lawn, South Campbell. You can find them at ksgf.com under Nick's endorsements as well. I mentioned before the end of the last hour Jasmine Crockett and how she was all excited because the Atlantic was going to do a profile on her, and then she found out that this isn't North Korea, and that doesn't mean that it's all going to be wonderful. And listen, she is a Democrat. She's a left-winger, so it's fair for her to assume that it was going to be nothing but wonderful, positive stuff. She found out that while talking to some of her colleagues, they described her in ways she did not find flattering, so she called and threatened to pull the permission for the Atlantic to do a story on her, not realizing that, freedom of the press thing is still in existence in this country. One of the things, though, that they posted was that she argued that she deserved, this was to her colleagues. She argued that she deserved to be the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee because she had the most followers on social media. What a frightening understanding of the mindset of some of these. And I'm telling you, she is not the only one. It explains how it is Democrats, I believe, have, at least partially explains, how it is that Democrats have been on the 20% side of these 80-20 issues. They believe that what goes on in the world of social media is a representation of the community at large. Now, a lot of people believe that, by the way. This is how, in particular, people on the left can't comprehend that that there's anyone out there that supports Trump or that Trump got elected, anyone would vote for Trump, because they isolate themselves to like-minded people on social media, and they believe that that is a representation of the average person. There are elected officials who believe the same thing, and so they respond to that. It's part of what has fed into the Democrats taking these obscenely extreme positions on a number of issues. Some of it, of course, is because it's the opposite of the Republicans, but they also validate their belief because of the noise on social media. So, forcing or, allowing kids to have sex change operations. Well, because all of their social media followers support that, because their social media followers say that anyone who's opposed to it is transphobic, they believe that that is a safe position to take, and so they do that. And I know that you would think polling would demonstrate to them, their own polling, that they would recognize, oh, maybe I've miscalculated this. But you got to realize the left will deny reality if their emotions tell them otherwise. That's what makes them lefties. They're driven by emotion. So even if they see the reality of the majority of Americans being opposed to such things, on social media, they sense and feel the anger of people who are on the left, and they just get caught up in that echo chamber. The fact that Congresswoman Crockett believed that we're talking about the most powerful country in the world. We're talking about the fact that she has a vote. We're talking about the fact that she believes she should have been the top Democrat, which means if Democrats get back control of Congress, she would be the chairperson of the Oversight Committee, a very powerful, significant committee. And I think she genuinely believed this because she had the most followers on social media. That meant she was the best equipped. That is frightening. And I would like to think that there are at least one elected Democrat who recognizes how frightening that is, which is why they told The Atlantic this. I want to read to you a piece coming up that was published in The Blaze. That, of course, is Glenn Beck's publication. And it's titled, Why Don't We Know Anything About the Man Who Tried to Kill Trump? And it's written by Congressman Eric Burleson. First, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, a 60% chance of showers through mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And taking a look at Friday, partly sunny with a high near 80.
Sarah Myers.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. It's been miserably hot over the last couple of days. And if your AC is not working the way that it should, I want to recommend Russell and his crew over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. They're great to work with. I've used them numerous times throughout the year, and I just had them upgrade my unit several months ago, actually. They made the process just easy peasy. The crew was professional. They were great to work with. I couldn't be happier, in fact, with the work that they've done out at my home. From AC tune-ups to service repairs to full unit installs, the Foreman team does it all, residential and commercial too. So if your AC is going out, don't sweat it. Reach out to Russell and schedule your appointment today. Now, you can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I thought I would share with you a piece in The Blaze titled, "Why Don't We Know Anything About the Man Who Tried to Kill Trump?" by Congressman Eric Burleson. It reads as follows. During a press conference last week in the Oval Office, a reporter asked President Trump how it's possible that we know more about a couple from a Coldplay concert just hours after their extramarital affair was exposed on social media than we do about Thomas Crooks more than a year after he came within centimeters of killing the president in Butler, Pennsylvania. Despite thousands of interviews, hundreds of hours, combing through photos and videos, the public still knows very little about the would-be assassin. Not his motive, not how he gained access to a nearby rooftop, not even how he built two remote detonated bombs he ultimately never used. Until any of us are given reason to believe transparency in any particular case is harmful to the constituents we serve, our duty is to demand it at every juncture. Trump responded that he believed the FBI when the organization told him investigators didn't find anything, clarifying that his conversation was with the new FBI leadership, not the corrupt organization led by James Comey or Christopher Wray, leadership he would never trust. Though Trump has placed widely trusted figures within the FBI, 6 months is hardly enough time to place faith in the same institution that has been weaponized against him for nearly a decade. Institutional rot undoubtedly runs deeper than its top brass. The ambiguity surrounding Trump's failed assassin should be met with absolute scrutiny. The lack of information about Crooks is not an anomaly. It is the signature of a bureaucracy that hoards information from the public under the pretext of national security or ongoing investigations. This culture of concealment has infected Washington for decades. Bureaucratic elites, along with their stakeholders, have presumed the authority to decide what the public should know, if anything, and release only information that suits their agenda. Americans have been promised transparency and accountability across generations. They almost never get it. Such entrenched power calls into question who truly holds the keys to power in Washington. Consider the John F. Kennedy assassination. For more than 60 years, the public has doubted the official narrative pushed by the intelligence community, and rightfully so. Just days after President Kennedy's funeral, a Gallup poll revealed that a majority of Americans did not believe the shooter acted alone. The lack of transparency that still persists decades following the case has only fueled speculation. In one of my first hearings on the task force on declassification of federal secrets, experts confirmed what President Trump's March declassification made undeniable, that the CIA repeatedly lied to Congress about its ties to Lee Harvey Oswald. Just days ago, the agency tacitly admitted that its 1963 testimony claiming to have had only limited knowledge of Oswald was a lie. Newly released documents show that the CIA's liaison to Congress, George Joannides, not only concealed an off-the-books anti-Castro operation that had interacted with Oswald, but he also earned the CIA's Career Intelligence Medal for stonewalling Congress's investigation. For nearly 62 years, a bureaucratic agency commissioned by Congress, funded by Congress, and subjected to congressional oversight lied to Congress. Not only did they get away with it, it was rewarded. If the body that created the CIA can't hold the agency accountable, who can? Not even the executive branch has succeeded. Republican and Democrat presidents alike have failed to force full compliance with the 1992 JFK Assassination Records Collection Act. Under Trump's first term, the public was given the familiar excuse from the intel community, it's a national security concern. Do the American people have to wait 6 decades and for all involved to be long dead before knowing the truth about what their supposed representative government has done? Who decides when and what we get to know? If not the people, if not Congress, if not the president, then who? This is why the Jeffrey Epstein case matters to the public and why it cannot be swept under the rug. The files and our inability to even learn who was involved in the crimes that placed Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in jail are a testament to the ugly truth. In the words of James Madison, a popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both. The American people have become several steps removed from the decision-making power in Washington. Information and the means of acquiring it, and thereby the ability to even know whom to hold accountable, have been almost entirely lost. Perhaps our government is, as Madison asserts, a prologue to a farce or a tragedy. As members of Congress, it is our duty to do everything in our power to uphold the Constitution and deliver to the American people the transparency that sustains trust in our democratic republic. Until any of us are given reason to believe transparency in a particular case is harmful to the constituents we serve, our duty is to demand it at every juncture. Now, again, that is published on Glenn Beck's The Blaze by Congressman Eric Burleson. And I think that this is something that a lot of people instinctually understand, and many may not. When Dan Bongino first came out and said, well, I've seen the evidence regarding Epstein, and trust me, he didn't kill himself. And part of his credibility that he put forth was, hey, you guys know me. I mean, if there's anyone that is going to be part of the FBI to reveal the truth about if Epstein was murdered or whatever, it was going to be me. I mean, you know that. And my reaction to that is, that may be true, but that's not enough. Because you are simply asking people to trust you, and you are government. Now, that doesn't mean that you have changed. This doesn't mean that Kash Patel, this doesn't mean that Dan Bongino have somehow become corrupt or somebody has something over them. I'm not saying that that's impossible, but that isn't. When Dan Bongino comes out and says, hey, I've seen it, you trust me, you can trust me, so that should be the end of it. No, we need to learn, we need to recognize, we need to get back to a world, and many of us are there, in which it doesn't matter who in government is in charge, government is to not be believed. And so what needs to happen is not just trust me because I've seen it, but you've got to provide us the information. It doesn't matter who's in there. And it doesn't mean that you aren't trustworthy. But it's not about trusting you. It's about the fact that we, the American people, deserve to know this information. And as Congressman Burleson points out in the piece published on The Blaze, this isn't new. This has been going on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And we have, it's the nature of government, particularly, specifically, when it comes to agencies like the CIA, that there is this default attitude that the American people don't need to know, and all we have to do is slap on it national security and ongoing investigation, and that means we don't have to tell anyone. And I would argue that the good people who get into these positions, the Kash Patels and the Dan Bonginos, need to remember, they need to, and I'm not saying they don't, but they need to expect us not to just trust them, even if they deserve the trust, but instead to expect transparency. Real, true transparency. And my inference from the piece that Congressman Burleson had published in The Blaze is that that's what he's arguing here. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. You don't marry your interest rate, you date it. I want a great homeloan.com. I was listening to the discussion with the guys on Red Eye Radio just about the housing market and last month, and this is a common conversation, and it's the interest rates that so many part of the reason there are less houses on the market than would be considered appropriate, I guess, is because a lot of people they're holding on to their houses. They have low interest rates. They have an interest rate of 2.75%, 3%, and so you're thinking, oh, I'm going to jump that up to 7%? And so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till they come back down. You can always refinance. This is the way I look at it. And listen, where I am, I don't have any desire to move. I love the house. As we speak, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoors, taking some of our outdoor area and making it an additional living space. I mean, we're there for a time. But if you're holding back and you're waiting for the interest rates to drop, then that means once you decide to get in, lots of other people are as well. And then that can cause, because of supply and demand, the cost of homes to go up. Or you get let's say you go in now and, okay, well, the interest rate's going to be higher than I have now. You go ahead, you purchase the home at a higher interest rate than you'd like, but then let's say a couple years from now or a year from now, the interest rates come down. You can refinance. And you got the house at a lower price because with the interest rates going down, that cost of the home in all likelihood would have gone up. See how it makes sense? Now, of course, every situation's different, but point being is if you're simply sitting around waiting to game the system based off interest rates, you're probably going to screw yourself. iwantagreathomeloan.com. And they listen, talk with them, tell them your thoughts, your concerns, your fears, and they will walk you through all of it. They're not there to talk you into anything. They'll just give you a layout of the land so you can make the best decision possible at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. All right, we're going to get a traffic update. Don't forget, we do have happy hour at Retro Metro on Friday, 4 to 6. Happy hour specials on drinks, on food as well. So that is a great way to kick off the weekend on what's going to be a chilly day, like a high of 80, 81. How awesome is that?
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny and hot with a high near 98. Tonight a slight chance for showers and then mostly cloudy with a low around 72. For your Thursday, a 60% chance of showers through mid-morning and then partly sunny with a high near 83. And taking a look at Friday, partly sunny with a high near 80.
Before I move on here, just throw it out there because I was sharing with you the piece published in the Blaze from Congressman Burleson and just about the need for transparency and the calls for the government to stop saying trust us and whether it's Kennedy or the Trump shooter or just whatever it is to release that information. CBS is reporting that, that missing minute of it's just this never ends. The missing minute of the Epstein cell tape, that it may not be missing after all.
Okay.
Now, this whole thing. That tape was released, and then there was a minute that was missing. People were like, well, there's a minute missing. And then Pam Bondi afterwards came out and was like, oh, well, that's because they reset things, and so that minute's always missing. But don't worry, we'll give you, we'll show you other tapes that demonstrate that's to be the case. And best I know, that was never actually done. And, my thought was, well, if this is true, if there is a reset in which it's always, why would you not preemptively say that? Because if you wait until people figure it out and then you explain it, it looks like you got caught or, it's just it's so frustrating. Pam Bondi's messaging, I tell you, I think she has created so many more unnecessary problems just because of the way that she's handled this stuff than is necessary. But all that aside, The missing minute from the surveillance video of the Manhattan Metropolitan Corrections Center, where Epstein died in 19, may not be missing after all, CBS has learned. When the Justice Department and the FBI released the 11-hour footage, that was missing, a government source familiar with the investigation says the FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, and the Department of Justice Inspector General are all in possession of a copy of the video that does not cut from just before 11:59 to midnight of the night Epstein died by suicide in his cell. So, okay. Now, and here's the thing about this. Could be true. If it is, why did Pam Bondi not know this? Why, again, is it not the administration, specifically Pam Bondi, that revealed this information? Why is this from anonymous sources? Or it could be not true, but it's anti-Trump people that are recognizing that, or they feel as if this Epstein thing is causing, well, it is. It's causing some headaches for Trump. There are a lot of people that are Trump supporters that are unhappy with the way that this is being handled. The Democrats are utilizing it or attempting to utilize it in order to try and, harm Trump. And so you could have a situation in which the recognition of that has caused people who are anti-Trump people in the deep state to falsely claim that there is a tape that is in existence that's being held that shows that missing minute just to make it look as if the administration is hiding something. It could be either one. I don't know which one it is. Now, I want to share a few pieces of story, and these are the sort of things here that some people are going to say, that's dumb, why are you talking about it? But I don't know. I found these a combination, well, they're just all entertaining, and we'll do them very quickly here. Number one, do you know Katy Perry was spotted on a date with?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Justin Trudeau.
I saw that.
Now, I don't know why on earth this struck me as, I like, what difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference, but I don't know. It just, she had that messy breakup. It feels just a little too, I don't know. Ew, he's so gross. Justin Trudeau, Eric Swalwell, and Gavin Newsom, they all remind me of a male character that would be the most hated male character on a reality TV show. There's usually one or two that's total douchebag that you're just like, oh my gosh, this individual is the most insufferable human being ever. So annoying. They think that they are so smart and so special. They think that everybody likes them. They seem to be oblivious to the fact that people roll their eyes at them. That, to me, those three individuals all fall into that category. Katy Perry spotted with. All right, I got 3 WNBA stories here. No, wait, 2. No, wait. Yeah, 3. And I think that they're all great. Now, one of them's kind of PG-13. It's going to be the third one, just so I'm forewarning you.
I almost read this to you during break.
Yeah. Well, I came across it last night. Then my wife sent it to me this morning. And I said, I already actually have this to talk about. Or not really to talk about. Okay, so the first one is Sophie Cunningham, which she is on the Fever team. And she's from Columbia, Missouri. Right, and she went to Mizzou. I think she played basketball. Well, obviously she played basketball there. Her parents went there. She's, pretty blonde gal, and she plays on the same team as Caitlin Clark, and really sort of got a huge boost in popularity when she finally physically sort of fought back against some of the bully players on an opposing team that were constantly physically being aggressive towards Caitlin Clark. And so she got a lot of just fan support because finally somebody is standing up for Caitlin Clark. So, headline of a story: Fever's Sophie Cunningham turns head with hot girl's message before game. I don't know why. I just think this T-shirt is hilarious and that she would wear it. And I don't think it really means anything. But did you see the shirt she was wearing? It just said "Hot girls eat Arby's." And that's all. It's just in simple print. Hot girls eat Arby's. And you can imagine the social media reaction to it, of which many people were like, and Arby's is selling out of roast beef sandwiches as we speak. A WNBA player lost her wig during gameplay. Now, did you see this one?
I did see this. Why would you wear a wig while you're playing?
Yeah.
It's just so hot and sweaty.
Well, and one that's like long with braids and everything. And exactly. Okay, well, I guess this would be the answer, because that is what they wear in public for the most part, and they don't want I mean, even though I imagine a lot of people assume, oh, that might be a wig, and this isn't uncommon, particularly amongst black women, to have shorter hair, but to wear a wig that is much longer and that is braided. And so if that's something that you're wearing out in, general public as part of your standard hair, even if people might suspect, I don't know, then you play, you just don't want to take it off. I guess I can understand that. But the fact of the matter is, priorities here. And it fell off during game, and then she ran off the court. She ran off the court like it was a sixth grade game or something, and she realized she had her first period, and so she just, like ran off the court in embarrassment. So what's worse is apparently her teammates heard none of this makes the WNBA look good, by the way. So here you stop the game because a wig falls off during the game. Her fellow teammates apparently heard someone in the stands laughing at her about it, and they had that person ejected from the game because they laughed at her. Now, if you are trying to be taken seriously as a league, and you are trying to argue to the general public at large that you deserve to be taken as seriously as the NBA, that as women you should be treated just the same in terms of financial compensation, or at least to some degree comparable as men, when you have players' wigs falling off, and then when somebody that's a fan laughs at you for it, you go crying to the refs and have them thrown out of the game, that does not help. And then the third WNBA story, which also does not help. Now, I'm just going to read to you the headline, okay? Well, no, I'll read you the story, but I'm saying I was like, okay, so how should I word this so that some people may not be offended? Well, I'm just going to read to you. Headline: Fan throws green dildo onto court at a WNBA game. They brought that in, for this reason. A prank.
And it passed security checks. That's the best part.
A prankster threw what turned out to be a green dildo onto the court during the matchup between the Atlanta Dream and the Golden State Valkyries on Tuesday night. The game at the Gateway Center Arena came to a halt late in the fourth quarter over what was initially reported as a green object being thrown onto the court. It was later revealed to be a green dildo. Quote, "The broadcast crew tried to determine what was going on until the camera found what the object was, and a brief glimpse at the green item, which turned out to be a sex toy in question, quickly sent the camera in another direction," reported for the win. The video was later shared online. The perpetrator has not been identified and remains at large. The incident comes after a fan was ejected from the matchup between the Washington Mystics and the Phoenix Mercury this past Sunday for mocking Kaylee Cooper, who had her wig fall off while playing. You take so Caitlin Clark she's out for injury, and so you already have viewership down, and with her not playing and viewership down, it already puts the WNBA, and while there's contract negotiations going on, sort of on this spotlight of, okay, as a league itself, should they be taken seriously? And when you are in that particular position, it certainly doesn't help to be making headlines with situations like this. But it is entertaining. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Okay, well, this is a horrible show. We're preverts.
We are.
Preverts. There's an opinion piece, MSNBC. Sydney Sweeney's ad shows an unbridled cultural shift towards whiteness. Just shut up. But no, so here's the thing that actually, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, Sydney Sweeney, beautiful young actress who has really become extremely popular over the last several years. She has what many people consider to be a natural beauty. I mean, she doesn't appear to have to wear a lot of makeup, and she just has sort of a normal way about her. She doesn't come across as pretentious, and she's clearly this is a gal who was hired by one of the soap companies to, and literally what they did is they had her bathe in water, and then they took the portions of the water, I'm sure very small portions, and mixed it into the soap so that you could buy soap with her bathwater in it. This is a marketing campaign. This was on television. The television ads had her talking about this because she's just so popular. So the latest, the American Eagle and jeans, and she's talking about her jeans, and it's a play on words. While she's talking about it, she's all sexy. She's wearing sort of a half open, half button jean jacket with nothing underneath it, and so you see just a hint of cleavage. And then she's kind of pulling up the jeans and buttoning them. Looks like she's not wearing underwear, and she's just talking about jeans. How good jeans are passed on, and so it's a play on words. Well, the left, because they just hate anyone that is happy and pretty and successful, start straight up really legitimately claiming that this is promoting Nazism because Hitler believed in jeans, which, so does science, but whatever. Here's the thing, however, that so you've got two problems here. One, that there are insane people. This is not normal. It is not normal to see an ad like that and think Nazis. There is something wrong with these people. And it may be nurture as opposed to nature. It could be, I think that liberalism promotes this sort of mindset. It promotes this paranoid delusion mentality where at every single turn there's secret Nazis, there's secret this, somebody's out to get, there's conspiracies left and right. Project 2025 is one of, 2025. It's, these people on the left. Trump had Stephen Colbert fired. This is a secret Nazi whistle, dog whistle, this gene commercial. I mean, the left, they cultivate in their echo chamber these paranoid, delusional beliefs of things, all right? But the second problem is that those very few insane voices get treated as if they are just half of an otherwise legitimate discussion and argument. I've seen numerous news stories about how, controversy over this ad. There really isn't controversy simply because you have a handful of insane people using the internet in order to spew out paranoid, delusional conspiracy theories about Nazism does not make that ad controversial. It makes them insane. And listen, I get that there is a news component to it because it is something that the community is talking about. It's something that is on social media. It's something that is getting attention. The problem is the way that these stories get reported, as if it's just, two different sides with sort of these different opinions about this and, point, counterpoint. No. That is not what this is. This is a completely normal commercial that's doing a play on words, that has an attractive-looking human being at the center. None of this is new in marketing. But at the same time, you have a handful of insane people that are squawking about it. That does not make them a counterpoint to an argument. It doesn't make the, well, that's an interesting perspective, something to think about. No, and it shouldn't be treated as such. This is no different than prior to the internet. It wasn't uncommon to see somebody standing on the street corner with a cardboard sign with some sort of message on it, not asking for money, but like screaming about the end of the world or some sort of conspiracy. You notice you don't see those people anymore? Those of you who sort of grew up with the existence of the internet don't realize that the people who scream about crazy stuff on the internet used to do it out in public. Almost every town had one. Almost every town had this person or a city, and they'd be on a certain street corner, and they'd have a sign, and they'd be screaming about the end of the world or some sort of conspiracy or whatever, and, that's just, people ignored them. They just walked by them, and you got used to them. They weren't necessarily they'd been around doing it forever, weren't harmed. But you don't see those people anymore because the internet exists. So now they get to do it on the internet. Treating those people as if they are putting forth some sort of even semi-legitimate argument is no different than if, 30 years ago, you had the crazy person on the street corner screaming about a conspiracy about, the local donut shop is putting, microchips in the sprinkles in order to control people's brains so that they become Nazis. And it would be as if the news decided 30 years ago to say, well, there's controversy about the local donut shop, arguments being made that they're actually turning people into Nazis. You wouldn't do that story. If you did the story, it would be about the insane guy and how local town USA has a nut job that is out there that locals are trying to get the city council to do something about because they're screaming all these wild conspiracy theories. It wouldn't be treating, through the lens of, well, here's an interesting argument. But that's how the media treats these insane people that politically are always culturally on the left. Whenever they put out these, insane doesn't even feel like a word that really truly demonstrates what it is that these people are, the things that they're saying. And I don't know how you get the media to shift that mindset. And maybe the media culturally is so left, they think that those are legitimate arguments. And this isn't, this is just one example of many. This is the one right now that is dominating the headlines. And here's what I do think part of the answer, and I think that particularly since the last Trump election, increasingly people are more willing to mock these people and to openly talk about how insane they are, whereas once upon a time, people may have been a little less likely to do that because they didn't want to be judged, they didn't want to have people pile on, but sane people, I think, have become a little more bold in the last couple of years. And so this is a sort of thing that even, just letting sort of the world know that this is insane. And these people, instead of posting on social media, they need to be talking to a specialized therapist somewhere for their own good. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Here's audio of the coverage of that WNBA game in which a fan threw a green dildo on the court during gameplay. And you can hear the moment the announcers realize what it is.
They will continue play as that goes off the fingertips of the Valkyries. And you can see the object, the block right there. The object comes, that green thing bounces, and it goes to the sideline. We're not exactly we're not sure where it came from. No room for any of that type of activity. Yeah. And no one's picked the object up yet. You guys, oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Inappropriate. Get out of here, whoever it is.
Well, so the visual of it is when there's that pause, she goes, oh my, or whatever. It's because they zoom in on it, and it's very, very clear exactly what it is when the camera zooms in on it. And it's fluorescent green. See, I was thinking it might be like a forest green or something, but it's fluorescent green. Okay, well. Yeah, I know. Yes, this has been quite the stellar programming for Springfield Radio. We will have our happy hour coming up at Retro Metro Friday 4 to 6, and don't forget Scramblers on Friday. Otherwise, I will talk with you tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.